Dr. Sneha is a board certified practicing pediatrician. She is an international board certified lactation consultant. She is a BFHI, which is the Breastfeeding Friendly Hospital Initiative. That's something that's across the world that is sort of put as a gold standard for facilities who practice breastfeeding friendly practices. She's a Breastfeeding Friendly Hospital Initiative trainer and facilitator, and a special interest are parent advocacy and helping NICU moms and babies have a good start to their lactation journey. So welcome, Dr. Sneha. Do you want to
Glad to be here, ma'am.
introduce a little bit more about how you got so interested into lactation? When pediatricians, usually that's not one
Yeah.
of the primary, So tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
It's. I think. Yeah, it was a multi-step journey actually. From in my UG days, I had very inspiring people in my undergraduate days in my pediatrics posting, and they really opened my eyes to the public health effect of breastfeeding. And then they also taught us pretty detailedly the positioning and attachment and how much difference of it it makes to the baby and the mother. And then we started using that in internship. So for us, it was not something new. We thought everyone knew it. And in post graduation, I and another girl were one of the few people who understood breastfeeding, and all we were surrounded by male colleagues. So most of them came to us, and then I started struggling with my own baby. I had a preterm, and then whatever I knew was falling short. And I ran to many people, including some lactation consultants, because I had some above normal problems. And then I realized, okay, there's a lot I need to know. And then as I kept digging deeper, thankfully I could manage to exclusively breastfeed, but it was a very uphill battle. And then as I dig deeper, there's so much more, and the journey never ended. I mean, it's like as you keep digging, there's much more, and I still do struggle with some others, and then I start learning about some things. I ask my colleagues, and then there's something new that's coming up, and it's a journey that of learning, and it gave me a lot of peace because apart from the difference it makes to the mothers and the babies, it also helps me actually connect to the mother and baby, for a longer time. In a pediatric visit, it's very hurried, and the ICUs are very stressful, and we rarely get a chance to connect at such a deep level. So I enjoy those consults. Yeah.
No, and how it's so empowering for the parents to have somebody
Yeah.
who they can just sit down and talk to, because not
Yeah.
will necessarily have a solution that minute. You know
Yeah.
that, I know
Yeah.
that. It's the whole journey, and even feeling heard, isn't it? And especially when
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
situations, every mom, I always say this to any parent who is struggling, is I think every parent wants to make the best decision for their child, but how you get there, is there like that empathy and compassion, and just being there and saying, I'm there for you. Today we may not fix it, but
Yeah.
let's take that small step. I think that's the beauty of
Yeah.
the lactation journey. Do you want to talk a bit more about your own personal journey into it, or do you think you want,
Yeah.
because it might help others? That's the only reason
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. So, coming my pregnancy, I mean, I had a previous twin loss, and then once I got pregnant, by the fifth month, I was confined to the bed for a very long time. And I was going through, I mean, I did want a natural birth, and I was looking at llamas, and the very I mean, even as an intern, it used to just give me chills looking at how we birth mothers.
Mm.
And that's why I ran away from gynec. So, that was my highest scoring subject, but I ran away because it just seemed so inhuman. And you could see that I'm transgressing and I'm going on a tangent, but I think it'll make sense. Okay, when I was an intern, I saw that the first year PGs of gynec, they were more empathetic, and you fall into that grind, and you're surrounded by that mahal of that this is normal, that everyone is doing this, and this is the only way. You lose your common sense, and this becomes your reality. And despite their best interests, though they had a good heart, they would have been brainwashed. And by the time they're in the second year, you'll see that they're more like the rest of the department rather than an individual. So you that see that difference. So it just, I mean, my delivery was pretty fast, and then my baby was into the NICU. because I had an infection, I had a coronary amnionitis. He had to be on support, and I mean mild support, oxygen and some antibiotics. Even the best intended.
When was the what was the term at that time? When was the baby born? What was the
33
baby?
weeks, 33,
weeks, yeah.
33 weeks, 33 weeks. Yeah. And I had a trusted colleague in the NICU. So, so I was in a daze. Okay. I was not in my senses. Like I was present, but I was like in a daze. So I forgot about breastfeeding, and I was just bothered about the safety of the baby. And then I realized, oh, what happened about the colostrum? What happened about colostrum harvesting? And then I get to know that without my permission, the child was given donor milk. And then, I did, yeah. And then we started colostrum expression and started feeding. And yeah, I did face challenges because he had issues with sucking burst. He couldn't maintain suction, and even till 3-4 months he was a very slow feeder, and all the advice I got was, just keep feeding. So that was not helpful. I was at loss of what to do. I was giving express breast milk again, despite the, I mean, uh, I mean, only till certain age we follow the norm, and then that continued, and then I kept direct breastfeeding because that's what I was told. Ki, just by feeding he will learn, but that learning came very late, and in that time there were many other problems that were coming up. So yeah. Yeah.
And when did you become a lactation? When did you become board certified? Like how many years after the
Oh
birth
yeah,
did you?
yeah. So yeah, I rejoined work at around 10 months of his age, and luckily I joined in a place which was friendly for breastfeeding, and I continued to express and feed, and I used to bring him to the hospital and feed also. And I used to go and feed, and it was very breastfeeding friendly even to the mothers. And so our role was predominantly in improving the environment there, and it was a good place to be. So, and then what happened is, because I realized that there's so much that I didn't know, and my peers used to call me because you more or less gave birth in a couple of years of each other, and I could find that I was able to help them out, even on phone, which they couldn't find elsewhere. So then I realized, because I had practiced even earlier to this, I realized that many places aren't actually breastfeeding friendly. After I passed out, I worked for 2-3 years, wherein I realized that this is rare, that hospitals being breastfeeding friendly is not very common. So then I started doing some courses. I kept solving problems in the ward, and then reading about it, and then reading more, and then coming back and applying it. And that deepened my knowledge. And then I did some courses, and I applied for certification because I felt that'll sort of help people take me seriously. So whatever newfound knowledge I had, no one was taking it seriously. When I didn't have any authority to say, ki, actually this is not recommended, this is the protocol. I couldn't have the voice against people. So I felt it's important to get yourself certified so that it actually gives you a say. So that's why I went ahead and wrote the exam and passed in 2022. Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And imagine you're saying that you, as a qualified pediatrician, people are not taking you seriously. Imagine the lactation
Yeah.
care counselor without the
Yeah, that's,
IBCLC.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree. And that unfortunately, there's this culture of not taking paramedical branches seriously also. That's an unfortunate culture. Yeah.
But what an amazing journey. So let's get back to the meat of the question for today. Why are so many
Yeah.
moms struggling with breastfeeding?
I think it's a multifactorial thing. One is definitely starting from pregnancy and delivery itself. Before pregnancy itself, you see that obesity is increasing, overweight mothers are increasing. There's more PCOD, and there's lifestyle difficulties. And at birth, very significantly, C-sections are very high, and the births are not convenient. They're not as nature intended to. And then there is separation, which is sort of the norm. People don't even question it, and it's seen weird to actually talk about putting the baby on the breast immediately after birth. And even mothers are not ready because they haven't been explained, and that at that time, in the peak of their pain and peak of their intense emotional experience, you go and tell, it's not going to work. So the hospitals and the culture, unfortunately, despite their intentions, because they're not informed of how actually the physiology works, they think that it's not a big deal, but when it is actually a very big deal. Getting off onto the good start, getting off onto the right track, it's like pura course sort of deviates so much. They don't realize how significant that beginning is, and they routinely separate. Sometimes they put in the NICU, and even for good intentions. It's not that they have malaise. Sometimes it's just lack of knowledge, and there is long-standing legacy of doing these things, of separating the mother and putting the mother in a very cold room in the post-op, or in the normal vaginal delivery also, the mother is not allowed to feed in lying down position. She's scolded, and no one even thinks about lying down position. And so I think the hospitals itself have made things difficult. But I see that, this was the case even in my mom's generation. But what changed, I think, is that the grandmothers themselves have lost the wisdom of supporting their daughters. That is a question that bugs me, that why this grandmother who had fed 3-4 children is not able to solve her daughter's breastfeeding issue. And I think that that's because as a generation and as a culture, we have stopped recognizing that nurturing is such an important thing. And this grandmother remembers which day of life her child got tika, that means vaccinations, which day, what happened during the medical procedure. She remembers very well, but she doesn't remember how she breastfed. And she doesn't remember, she's not able to articulate it, That's because she doesn't think of it as such an important thing. You see, the entire culture doesn't value nurturing so much. And she has somehow lost that wisdom. And she has not, for her, the support was so natural and so ubiquitous that, I'm talking about the grandmothers when they delivered, that, she might not have, thought too much about it. Now, because grandmothers, the age gap is increasing, and apart from their own children, they might not have seen other women breastfeed, so the memory is lost. And then they don't question the medical practices, so they think that everything the medical, the healthcare professionals will take care, even including breastfeeding. But unfortunately, the healthcare setup is not equipped with the knowledge that is required to, support breastfeeding. Unfortunately, they think that, it will naturally happen. Kya hai usme? But then it's like the team which cares for this baby that is just born, and the mother that is just born. There's also a breastfeeding journey that is just born. And that is also a delicate thing that has to be supported by so many professionals. And that doesn't happen, unfortunately. People think that it just happens. It can happen. It is a robust phenomena like the baby itself, But then just like how you would care for the baby, the early days of breastfeeding need caring too. So I think that's why. And I also think mothers have become very, including me, have become very left-brained. We need very,
About that. Absolutely.
certainty. Yeah, we need certainty. We need we are failing to see non-verbal cues of the baby. We are failing to understand what the baby is clearly trying to tell you, that, he's not comfortable in this position. He's trying to extend his neck. He's trying to, squirm and get closer, or he's crying to be held. I think those probably were more naturally understood by moms in the previous generations. Now, because we have rarely seen, if I was not a pediatrician or a medico, I would not have seen a baby in my life till I had my own baby. Yeah. And I would not have seen mothers. I haven't seen mothers breastfeeding even in my close circles. They usually shy away. It's not something that is usually done, as a tribe.
Yeah,
And
it's so rare to see somebody confidently feeding. I feel like in the past 16 years that I have been taking care of moms and babies here, I can count maybe on fingers of 2 hands where the mom would just casually walk in, holding the baby and talking to me. Like, that's so rare. If anything, you have to have this production, you have to go in, you have to find the right spot, and eventually it's not that they are not there or they don't get to it later, but those initial few weeks, like you very rightly said, where both the mom and we are learning together as a dyad, not just one trying to fix the other, but both learning from each other. That's completely gone. You're so right about the family circumstances, and the grandmoms will take the baby and sit, and they'll hold and they'll coo and ka, but nobody will say, "Why, this baby belongs right to the mom right now." Like, how many people say that? Why is the baby not with the mom? Why is the baby with me? And why do we need to, and again, the last part, which I think I wanted to add a teeny bit and then give, ask you for your other thoughts as well. But to me, that the whole idea of that medicalization, where the hospitals were always built to tend to sick people, but we have taken a physiological process called birth and breastfeeding and dumped it on the same floor as a cardiac event. And so the whole idea, the whole sort of the brain works on, I'm going here, someone's going to deliver my baby, someone's going to latch the baby to my breast. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to ping and someone has to come. And the way one taught, and there's no continuity of care. When your grandmom first within the home, there are many people who would help them to hold and latch. Whereas here, one nurse might have learned it one way, the other way, and the third way. And then each one of them comes in and gives a little different opinion. And now you are completely lost because you're left brained about it, saying that they know better than I do. And I think, honestly, all of us should call ourselves facilitators, not consultants and counselors, and we're just here to facilitate your work, right? So go right ahead. I'm sorry, I had to just bring that up, as a phenomenon that you see.
That's very valid. Yeah. And you were saying, another thing that came up to my mind is, the fear around what might happen if the baby cries, and the presence of formula, which is so ubiquitous, and people don't think twice. There was a mom just today. I'll just tell you what happened. This baby had a blocked nose. She came for the blocked nose. She never told about the difficulty feeding, and she was sent away by the male some physician who is an odd one out in our hospital, and she wasn't helped with breastfeeding, and she never questioned it. She just started formula without anyone's advice, and she came back with a complaint that the child is not passing stool. So she had the problem of cold and not passing stool for 3 days has made her come in the rain to the hospital, but she never bothered to come for breastfeeding, and she never thought twice about buying formula. And because it is so ubiquitous and there is so much peer, unfortunately, peer somehow the knowledge transfers about presence of formula rather than getting breastfeeding support. And and because it is it's as a culture and as human beings, we move towards objects rather than phenomena or a process. And it's instantly available. It's instantly solving the problem. But people don't realize how a vicious cycle it starts off, and what the downward spiral that quickly takes over with the introduction of formula. They will think it's just one feed, it's okay. But then that one feed can quickly spiral out. So that's one thing. And I think another reason why mothers are struggling more is like I was saying, they don't understand that it's okay to learn. They think that they don't understand that it is a process that happens slowly. They think that it has to either I get it or I don't get it. And the quick fix and, and there's so many myths around. So the myths have stayed. Somehow the wisdom is lost. The myths are still very prevalent, but the myths are very prevalent, but the wisdom of how to get the baby into a good position, somehow I am just surprised at every time a grandmother says that I could breastfeed this child. I don't know why she's not able to breastfeed, but she's not able to help the mother breastfeed in very obvious ways. So yeah.
I'm going to steal that line, okay, from now onward. The myths have stayed, but the wisdom is lost.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
a very powerful line. But honestly, I think that is it's a cycle that is self-perpetuating. Again, it's the same that has gone into the entire. To my interest is how does birth affect breastfeeding, and I'm so
yeah,
clear that
yeah,
it
yeah,
so clear
yeah.
that
It does,
does.
it does, it does, it
If
does.
you have that whole the way in which you birth, if it is calm, connected, supported, the way you breastfeed is calm, connected, supported. You come in
Yeah.
both and
I
both
think, yeah,
sides. It is not
yeah,
it is not just from the care provider side. There is that fear phenomenon, which is a ping pong on both sides, and both the care provider works in fear, thinking that if something goes wrong, then the parents are going to sort of, not accept it. We all want a perfect outcome without taking responsibility,
yeah, yeah,
co-responsibility, right? And
yeah,
then the parent is fearful that if they don't do exactly what the care provider says, something can go wrong. And both of these coming together, it's a perfect storm of
yeah,
not reading the baby, but reading everything else around it.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
read the baby, like
yeah,
you said, the baby
yeah,
squirming. Is it hot? You enter the room and it's like a 300-degree oven. And like
mm,
yes, you should keep the place warm, but it doesn't have to be so hot that everyone's uncomfortable. And if everyone's uncomfortable, how is the baby feeling? And so
mm, mm.
and I think there is a lot to say about um, I like the more I look into this, I feel like we need circle of women just sitting with each other
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talking to each
yeah,
other
yeah,
rather than a
yeah,
circle of I know better than you care provider or I know
yeah,
better than you somebody else,
yeah,
because I think that antenatal education, I will let, and I'm sure you will talk about it more of breastfeeding is great, but I also think it's not about one, two, three, four steps. Bring the baby to the breast
yeah,
like this. It's
yeah,
more about
yeah,
how is it natural? Why is that skin to skin important? Why don't we want to separate any mammal in that the first
yeah,
hour,
yeah,
And of course, this increase of cesareans has caused so much problem because it's so much easier to get the baby out, put the baby in the warmer, let the pediatric team take over, leave the baby under the warmer, and then ship the mom separately, ship the baby separately, let somebody hold it. It is much harder to do that gentler cesarean, get the baby to
yeah,
the breast, and I say it just takes a little bit of intuitive planning, not
yeah,
rocket
yeah,
science planning. That's
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
you can do that very easily. And we have very few cesareans, very few.
yeah,
But when we do, for the most part, unless the baby is really unwell, most of our cesarean babies have had two feedings within the first hour, minimum.
great,
So
great,
it's
yeah,
not impossible, it is possible. But
yeah,
the whole idea to me is the system has to become very sensitive about that sensitive phase. And unless we do that,
yeah,
we are not going to make much progress, isn't it?
yeah.
So in the current scenario, how can expecting moms make sure that they are setting up for at least partially setting up themselves for breastfeeding success and then
Yeah.
following it up with what do you see as some solutions?
I think, like you rightly pointed out, it's that feeling of being empowered. It's like you need to take this into your own hands.
Yeah.
Don't leave it to the healthcare professionals. They're there, but unfortunately, despite their best interest, best intention, sometimes they're not equipped with the skill and the finesse, the nuance of helping the mothers. They're somehow missing. So empower yourself with knowledge while you're pregnant itself. Once the baby is born, that's the worst time to learn these things because you're stressed out, the baby is hungry, and so do learn about these things, which are pretty simple, and insist on the first golden hour skin to skin contact, and don't let anyone force the baby onto your breast. Let the baby explore and self latch, just gently nudge and yeah, put aside these fears. I mean, many times I see moms that are scared away because of fears that have been uh, yeah, see, it is the healthcare professional's job to tell you the problems that can arise, but then they are not trained enough to tell you in a way that is very sensitive. So they'll just tell you, tut, 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 tut. Don't take them in face value and just catastrophize everything. So a GDM, a gestational diabetes mother would be told that, hypoglycemia can happen, but don't anticipate it. So, and then, set yourself up for success by learning about principles of early hunger cues, about golden, why skin to skin contact is important, understanding the signs of hunger and satiety and, other things, and insist on the baby being with you at all times, and not even in a separate bed, and not in that baby bag. Definitely not swaddled, and, put too many mittens, too much, and make sure that you are prioritizing feeding your baby at early signs of hunger, and that is a time where you can yourself, the dance between you and the baby, you will figure it out. Once you just know the principles of how breastfeeding works, then a lot of things will just fall into place once you give the baby and yourself that early phase of time. Once it is 6 hours, 8 hours since the birth, then the baby is flustered, you are stressed out, your pain kicks in, and and do insist on feeding in lying down position also. If you're not able to sit up, that's okay. And then advocate for yourself. If someone says, let's give formula, then ask for help. Ask for help instead of saying, say that, sometimes we have to be a bit diplomatic, and it doesn't really work when the mother just says, no, I will not give formula at any cost. I demand that only breastfeeding has to be. See, you have to advocate for yourself rather than, become aggressive or be very black and white. Just like natural birth, sometimes breastfeeding exclusively might not happen. Have the long-term game in mind. And if there is any problem, express your milk and feed the baby with a spoon.
Yes.
So learn hand expression also in antenatal phase itself. And, it's a skill that takes a small time to master, but then that'll protect your breastfeeding journey a lot. So any issue, while you figure it out, make sure that the baby is fed. You're not letting the baby cry incessantly and insisting that the baby has to be directly breastfed only. So give the baby some amount of expressed colostrum, let the baby and you figure it out slowly. But instead of formula, always insist on express breast milk. So, and never bottle, and don't go for pacifiers, or, don't use artificial means of soothing the baby, like, honey, or, any other things like swaddling the baby too much, or using artificial feeds pretty early on. If you can wait for most situations unless this child is in hypoglycemia. So that is what I mean. I think healthcare workers are needed, because I do see the other end of the spectrum too. I do see babies who do land into problems. But then as long as your baby is a healthy weight and a term baby, you do have a couple of days to figure it out. So you can keep track of the stool and the urine. And maybe you can insist on the baby getting weighed instead of, if someone says that, I think this baby is in trouble, let's give formula. Insist on getting the baby weighed and see if this baby really is in such a bad weight loss. And then insist for help, ask for breastfeeding help, or, you can yourself figure it out. Often you can have some videos, because it's such a motor skill. It's like learning to dance. It's using words like, put your right hand out, twist it to 180 degrees, and then put it to 45 degrees doesn't work. So it's something that you see. It's better you see a lot of videos. You see other women. You see, and having this mom circle is so beautiful that way, that, you really see that you're not alone in this.
Yeah.
Many mothers struggle to understand that it's not just them. It's a journey for most mothers. So seeing a lot of videos. There is Global Health Media Project. There is UNICEF videos freely available, good quality. Don't see random Instagram or YouTube videos. I would highly discourage it. But use Global Health Media Project. I'll just comment it down below, and a couple of good sources. A lot of visual input will actually let you understand what is happening and what you can do. You can yourself figure it out. So, and not relying on, don't fall for short-term instant fear. Like, don't think that, sure, I will not, this baby's crying too much, so I'll just express milk and just use a pump and just keep feeding uh, through the pump only. So whatever it is, try to watch your own emotions and empower yourself with knowledge and advocate for yourself. And I think you need a couple of family members to be on your side from pregnancy itself. So you alone seeing these videos is not helpful. You need to attend these classes along with the partner who is likely to stay with you. Many times the father isn't available. Ideally, I hope every father is, but sometimes they aren't. And in some wards, especially in places like mine, where we don't have individual beds. So in Nilofer and in the place where I'm working at, males are not allowed inside. So in such a case, it's better she had attended these classes with her mother-in-law or mother, whoever is her planned attendant. So that the myths are gone, and have a discussion about this, so that you have a teammate from the beginning on your side. Yeah, I think that's how the mother should empower herself. Yeah.
100%. And I think having that one person calmly being with you rather than questioning your supply, show me how much milk you have, why is this baby crying? And really, I think the whole family understanding that babies cry for many reasons. Not having milk is only one of them. And the other thing that you pointed out, which we often talk about, that the first 24 to 48 hours, most babies have enough reserves. And we do have the ability to, do a prick and really check if the baby's sugar levels are falling or if there is a dramatic, weight loss. Also, I think, again, the practices surrounding birth, coming back to that, if there has been a lot of, fluid overload onto the mom, that causes so much of an artificial weight loss on the baby. So there are so many of these nuances. So one, having a great patient counselor in the hospital is so important, and then the second part is, if you don't have one, at least, like you said, the antenatal preparation, understanding. And so we'll put down the Global Health Media Projects, this thing in the caption, but people watching it and then asking for other people who have actually gone through it. The last part is similar to the myth of आजकल के बच्चे को normal delivery नहीं होता, सहन नहीं करने वैसे we should not have that same myth that आजकल के बच्चे milk नहीं produce. It's like so commonly that everyone milk only comes in at sure, milk. But before that, there is plenty going on. So somehow that they have missed the part of what the colostrum and the pre-milk and all that does. And everyone's magically waiting for that third day filling up of the breast. And until then, like you very rightly said, the small insidious formula and other things. It's not that some babies will require something stopgap, but it should be really talked about and said, it is stopgap. This is not the end goal. We are doing this because of this. And this is what we are doing on the other end to help you get to your milk supply.
The second part is often missed.
Exactly. And so
I just wanted to
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a small point. People will often do come and press your nipples and see if milk is coming or not. That's absolute bullshit. Let me just tell you that don't fall for it. Because the amount of milk the baby needs in the first few days is 10-20 ml. For 10-20 ml, your breast is not going to get full. And this 10-20 ml, this baby is going to suckle in a very specific way for 20 minutes to get that milk out. So someone just coming and randomly pressing milk, often you will not see milk, and that doesn't mean anything. Just remember this. Yeah.
100%. And if they see that small drop, oh my God, how is it going to suffice for the baby? But they are sucking, they are making sure that the ducts get emptied. A breast that is not emptied is not going to produce that. None of those gets talked about when you talk about that one drop. And I have chuckled and talked of this for a while now, that colostrum is like a burger and French fry meal for the baby. Nobody understands that. It is so full of fat and protein and everything. It is satisfying, which is why the babies are okay with it. And from beginning of time, Years ago, Dr. Christina Smiley, she wrote about the 7 laws of breastfeeding. And the very first one was babies are hardwired to breastfeed,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that part, again, understanding that this is survival for the baby. If we didn't have that inbuilt mechanism, it would not happen. Sure, about 5% of moms can have some primary insufficiencies, but even then, not to the extent that you need to do something the minute the baby is born. I think these are
Yeah.
all the nuances that people don't understand. For the average mom listening to this live, and so either you're expecting or you've just had a new baby, please go back and understand that it is not happening in 1 minute. This happens over a period of time. And over a period of time, if you can hang on, follow the baby, follow the patterns that hopefully that are suggested to you by a good team around you. Many times what I find, we will give them a plan and then they go home and it's completely gone. And 10 days later, they're reaching back saying that, well, we thought it would happen, but it didn't happen, by which time it has all gone down. So following, if at all I would want to say that if you have got to a place where you have made a plan, sticking on to it is the only way we will understand what is working and what is not working. So the other question that I have is, when things don't get off to a good start, and sometimes they don't because of either mom's side difficulty or baby side difficulty, what can moms do to smoothen that and get to where they want to get?
I think again, like I said, express breast milk and then lot of skin to skin contact. Lot of skin to skin contact. Keep the baby fed with your express breast milk and just keep the baby very close to you. The very skin to skin contact will calm the baby down, will improve your milk supply, and it'll help you pick those early hunger cues. And this a baby which is away from mom rarely show those so well, and you will pick them up earlier. And a hungry baby is not a baby that can learn. So a baby who is not hungry will be patient with you. You can try and, get things off to a good start. Sorry, get things back on track. So yeah, express breast milk and skin to skin contact are the core. And yeah, seek out help, seek out professional help. Maybe if you don't have them in your hospital, look around in Google Maps, find someone reliable. If one person doesn't help, it's okay. It is worth, uh, you know, breastfeeding is invaluable, and insist on getting the help. If your baby had another problem, if this baby had, like I said, loose stools or something, or a cold that doesn't go away, you wouldn't just sit at home, right? If you're not able to get help from one person, seek another help. Often I find that mothers do receive some help in the hospital, which is unskilled, or it's not very uh, specific to the baby. It is just generic advice, and it doesn't work for the mother. And mother thinks, I have been helped. People actually came, they helped a lot, but then I couldn't do it. It's my fault. She thinks that she's at fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
So
another
many
thing
times.
why, yeah. And at least our previous generation, they never received any help. They figured it out on their own. Now they're receiving help which is half-baked. And the mother is thinking that, despite this, I haven't been able to feed, so I will not be able to feed. So, yeah, don't fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Seek out
No, we
help,
had
and yeah.
100%. And I think we have had so many moms come in that way, some who have not been able to make it, but have written pages and pages by Instagram DMs. Otherwise, I really wanted to come, but I had 1, 2, 3, 4 problems. And I think this is the other part I want to talk about. The entire family, which feels that no one should hear a baby cry. I think that somewhere got to be negated. Of course, we don't want the baby to cry incessantly. No one wants to do that. A baby crying is saying, give me help. Now, what it is,
Yeah.
where to find it, but getting every time the baby cries, saying that you don't have enough milk, this is one of the worst things that is happening. And so that is one part. The other part is, like you said, we have had a mom who came in to us after almost 2.5 months. And the previous time that she got help, in the name of trying to get her baby to latch. And she was pumping, she was being very, very, proactive about, and eventually the baby had completely gone on to the bottle. almost 90% formula, 10% breast milk, but she was still keeping the milk supply going somehow. But the thing that actually got her off it was somebody in the name of latching, letting the baby cry for 3 hours. Now that's again horrible. Like if you have a lactation care counselor or somebody saying it's okay to let the baby cry for 3 hours, no, first feed the baby. You very rightly said. The crying baby is not going to do anything. That baby is not going to learn. That baby is going to want to solve its basic problem of whatever is bothering it at that point was. And then the first time she came in, we sat, my lactation counselor with her, listened, and you can see that mom's face. Oh, the baby latched, and that's the part where I think that the whole system is missing on really. I think like surrounding the mom with support, like saying we are here for you, and
I think
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on. No, finish what you were saying.
No, I'm just saying there are most of the times that first lactation care consult that we have is a lot of tears.
True.
The tears flow, so I think, then the breast milk flows.
So one thing, a couple of things come to my mind. You were saying that these family people or grandmothers or grandparents who are distraught when the baby cries. I wonder why don't they know how to calm the baby? They've forgotten that hugging the baby and rocking the baby. They try. I'm just surprised how that wisdom is lost. And another thing is, it's that the wisdom that the mother and the baby are one unit. There is co-regulation that is happening. That when this mother is tense and this mother is not in a good place, the baby reads it. The baby can read the body language of the mother and thinks that it is in danger too. This wisdom is lost. I mean, that's what I mean. I think when you said about being heard is so important, especially in things like birth and even any healthcare. It's about the whole thing of being heard actually puts you away from this fight, flight, and then you yourself will be able to solve your problems because now your prefrontal cortex is now working. Earlier, it was like, help me. Now, once you have been heard and you're sure that you'll be helped, oftentimes that's all that is needed. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
and that goal, that common goal, right? Like, okay, come, let's sit down. What is your goal? Is your goal exclusive breastfeeding? We can talk our mind off by saying it is great, but if a mom does not really want it or believe in it or believe in herself or whatever it might be, we have to meet her at where she's at and say, do you want this? Okay, this is where we are going to be. But when you're not heard, and that comes from, again, that hierarchy of you outsourcing your body to somebody else rather than listening to what is happening inside of you. And I think more and more, unfortunately, that entire sort of sense of, we see that in birth as well, when people come in, oh, I have this pain, I have, whatever, and we are saying, okay, what would you do when you are non-pregnant? Well, do that, and suddenly it's like a bulb waiting. Oh, it's really that? Just because I'm pregnant, that doesn't change? Of course it doesn't change, But I always feel that a consultation should be a part of a conversation. When we do that, this is about their life. They are growing as parents. And when you enable them to grow as parents who are growing a baby inside, they automatically take on more responsibility. But when we have missed all that opportunity for ever talking to them and just saying, okay, your entire pregnancy is a sum of tests and scans and, never really talked about what happens after. People go ahead and buy a breast pump. This is why do you need a breast pump immediately? You first get to the first part. But again, our brains have been told to think, mujhe nahi aayega milk. Nobody in my surrounding got it, so I'll also not get it. So let me buy a breast pump off, right? Would you see that? But you tend to see a different...
Yeah, I do. I see both parts. I did work in Nilofer, and this that was very lower class, and then the place I'm working is lower middle class. But I do have a private practice wherein I do see upper middle class and richer people. So I think the thing is, again, we are wired to things rather than processes. So even if I'm struggling with my child something, I first go on to Amazon and see what can solve. It's a tendency, it sort of gives you a feeling of control. I think that is what the mother is searching for when she goes and buys this. It is that sense of agency and control. Because unfortunately, there's breastfeeding promotion everywhere, and there's a lot of judgment, and there's a lot of power dynamics that happen. And when she goes on hearing about breastfeed without receiving the support she needs to breastfeed, that is what I think pushes women into, I don't want to breastfeed now.
Yeah.
It sort of pushes them to that because they feel cornered, and just for the sake of agency,
Yeah.
For the sake of control, and then this becomes such a fight and such a big over that the absence of breastfeeding takes a life of its own, and there's another person in the room, and that comes in between the baby and the mother, and you see that lack of connection, and all it takes is actually bring the mother's notice to that, and then she realizes, oh, actually I can enjoy my baby despite anything else. I'm just talking about how we have moved away from just letting things flow and having your own perspective, and not just be guided by what other people are telling you. And I think the quote, like, if you don't know where you want to go, or what is the quote? I mean, if you don't know what you want to do, you will follow what other people say, or something like that. I think something like that. You have to fill your own jar with your own self, or authentic self, of what you want to do, how you want things to be, and your own knowledge, one which you actively seek. If that is there, I think many mothers start getting that self-efficacy key. Okay, if there is a problem, I'll be able to solve it.
Exactly.
I think that is the shift. It's that shift, the paradigm shift of being a victim versus being response-able. It's not that you're responsible for this child and breastfeeding, but you have the ability to choose the response. I think that the agency and the control is what the mother is searching for when she goes and buys all these gadgets. That's what my take is.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. Second little bit of word I got from you, respons-able. I love that. I love that. It's really true, because I think it's easy. These words are very easy to throw, be responsible, but with what, right? I think when we give them that ability to choose, I came back again to the same thing. I feel that place where all this starts is when parents come together as a expecting couple and say, where do I find resonance? Where do I stand in this? And it's not always easy. And like you very rightly say, you see different ends of the socioeconomic spectrum. Sometimes it is hard for those at the lowest end of the socioeconomic spectrum to really suddenly get that agency and say, I want this. But they may be able to exercise that agency in a different way by accessing different levels of support in their community, rather than thinking only about the doctor. But for the vast majority of people, especially those who are tuning into this live, a lot of them have the ability from either a financial or a getting information perspective, to be able to make those decisions. And if you can find that resonance, I think half your back, you don't want to go into birth and breastfeeding expecting trouble and on war footing. That itself again throws you into that flight mode and fright mode, right? You want to go into birth feeling, no matter what, I have a team which has my back. It may not be exactly easy, but it is going to be okay, and that then towards the levels of cortisol, that oxytocin, how, my goodness, how do we get that oxytocin to flow? And this is not just a word, it's really everyone sitting like this. There is oxytocin in that room, and you're going and saying, okay, I'm going to fix this. No, you're not. And how many people say that, oh, when I went to the lactation consultant, everything was okay. But then when I walked out back home, I had the same problem.
Yeah.
Because
I think, I think that's what, I mean, that's another common mistake that happens, that, people come in and lash the baby and see, the baby's latching, there's no problem. You don't empower the baby, you don't empower the mother, you don't teach what is actually working and why it worked, and, unlash the baby and ask the mother to do it herself.
Yeah.
So, we need to teach the mother, not show the mothers. Not lash the baby. Yeah. I think that's
We have a couple of questions. We'll take that before I go
sure.
into the last couple of other questions. So there was one mom who asked here that what if the mother is COVID positive? Can she breastfeed a baby? So she had two parts.
Sure, directly.
Yeah. So do you want to expand on
So
why it's okay?
Yeah, so WHO and UNICEF have given a clearance. So that's a good segue to talk about all illness. It's like whenever a mother is infected and she's started to get fever or something, already during COVID you have heard this pre-infective phase.
Mm-hmm.
That is the time where the infectivity is maximum and the germs have already gone to your baby. Now the best strategy is to actually protect that baby with the immunity that you are producing.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is to breastfeed your baby. And most of the germs that come in do not pass through breast milk. Immunity passes through breast milk. Look at nature. I mean, trust nature. And what you need to do maximum is to keep hand hygiene and oral droplet hygiene. That may wear a mask, keep your hands clean. Breast milk is going to help your baby not get infected. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. The second answer. So again, this is something I'm so glad you said it's about all diseases because most of it, there's no real reason to stop breastfeeding. You can continue to breastfeed and follow, pretty much the
That's best
hygiene
for the
that we
baby,
talked about.
actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. The
So
antibodies are going.
being a pediatrician, I'll tell you this very confidently. I see many babies and toddlers together. The toddler who has stopped breastfeeding gets ill. The baby is fine in the same
Yes.
household.
Yes.
And that's very common. It's not one-off. It's very common that, breast milk is just amazingly protective for the baby, even if you're ill. The mother is febrile, the toddler is febrile, the baby is happy. So that's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if at all the baby is febrile, what do they want? They don't want anything else except breast milk. That's the time that most of the times the baby will be like even those who have gone into eating some amount of solids and all that, the baby will only want breast milk. And most moms will say that being ability to continue feeding is what helped them, tide through that process. So to me again,
And
this
nature
is
is amazing that, sorry to interrupt. Nature is so amazing that if the mother is not ill, only the baby is ill also. The mother's body picks it up and starts ramping up the general immunity factors. And because the the germs are in the surroundings and the mother is producing antibodies to that, they also increase. The levels of immunoglobulins actually increase when the baby is sick. There's amazing feedback loop between the baby and the mother.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. I go back to this kind of funny, this thing that we keep researching to prove that nature is better, natural is better. We keep researching to keep proving that, right? But there is so much research about the saliva of the baby communicating through the pores of the nipple to the mom to produce a different quality breast milk. So I think again, it's super important. The other question the same mom had is if the baby if the baby was not what did she say? I should go back and look at it. But if the baby was on formula, can she shift from formula to the breast milk? One second, let me see if I'm reading it. I thought I wrote it down, but I don't know what I wrote. I've scribbled. One second.
Either way, I think that's a great question that before while you search, I can answer. It is going to be a journey, but then it is very much possible. And the shorter the time between the birth and the wanting to come back to breastfeeding, the easier it is going to be. But it is still possible even after a long time. But then it takes tremendous amount of commitment and support from the baby. Support from the family, and getting a lot of things right. Starting with why there was a problem. What actually set off this course to formula, correcting that, or making sure that doesn't come back, and then making sure that again skin to skin contact, respecting the baby's cues, reducing formula, how fast the baby takes. It can be done, but then as the age of the baby increases, the success rate decreases. But then below 6 weeks, I've seen that it works very well. After that also, I've seen many mothers do it very well. So it can be done.
Yeah. So I didn't get that question, but it was more or less you have answered that question. the longer it goes between full-on formula and less milk, especially if it has
Yeah,
not been expressed in some form, this milk supply
yeah,
has to come up. Then you're
yeah,
talking about relactation versus somebody who has still been expressing to some extent, and then the tackling the behavioral problems of the baby, as in now the baby is used
yeah,
to a certain kind of behavior, but it is very possible, but it is a long process, should be well thought out, should be well supported. The other
yeah.
question that just came, I want to take that. They said my baby suddenly stopped latching and she cries a lot if I try to forcibly put onto the breast. I don't have the full details of it, but do you want to
Yeah,
take that?
yeah.
Take that? So
Yeah,
take that.
I think it depends on how what is the age of the baby. If it is a very early sorry, a postnatal baby, maybe it is just that, first off, forcing the baby onto the breast is going to be counterproductive. You're going you're making backward steps. So first, give a break. Uh, Keep the baby skin to skin contact. Try to not have the agenda of breastfeeding at all. Just spend time with the baby, cuddle the baby, and just try to see what is the cause of not wanting to be on the breast. Maybe it's very often just positional difficulties in the early days, or maybe just blocked nose or a pain somewhere, a bruised head or something which is being pushed into the breast. If it is an older baby, also think of behavioral things like, if the mother has suddenly going to work, or suddenly the mother has sort of screamed when the baby bit or something. It depends on what has happened before the baby has actually stopped
Mm.
feeding. So the best strategy would be to stop forcing it,
Mhm.
spend a lot of skin to skin contact, keep up your milk supply by expressing often and
Right.
giving it through a breast friendly source like cup, and then work on solving that problem, coming back usually with a good positioning. If it is a early days, then often it is the positioning and milk flow problem. Later days, there could be other things also.
Yeah, and just to add to that, again, seek out help. Like because on just
Yeah,
directly
yeah,
on
yeah,
Instagram, it's very hard to answer a one-stop answer to the question, and there's
yeah,
so
yeah,
many layers to it. It could just be a temporary refusal. There could be something like Dr. Sneha was saying. You express the milk, maybe even try dream feeding, and then once the baby is more settled, then try to give it back again. But seek out help is what I think both of us would say at this point.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
there was one other question which was non-related to this, but sort of related. How long should you wait for umbilical cord to stop pulsing before you cut? So I'll take this question not so much from like an optimal cord clamping that is always there, that let the blood flow to the baby, but more from like the umbilical cord was only meant to be so long so that mom and baby were not separated, right? I really feel like when we again do that expectant management of the third stage. Again, I'm not going to say that everybody, it should never be cut. Again, there are times when the mom's bleeding, blood loss, so many things are there. But generally, not separating the mom and baby at birth. The first thing is don't cut the cord too early. Then you're automatically allowing for things to settle. It also gives, I think, the mom. I'm sorry, I'm going to use my bottle, but a sense of awe to hold her baby, right? Like that moment it is cut and the baby is separated, it is a process that has been completed, and suddenly we have said we are done. Like this 9-month journey meant really nothing. Like that, the baby is just suddenly gone. I mean, to me, again, it's as unphysiological as possible, and the brain that is saying, "Oh wow, I need my baby. Oh, my baby is cooing. Oh, this is how a baby feels." All those moments are so important again for that ownership. This is my baby. I get to do the right things. And then comes the part of breastfeeding. So it's not necessarily that every baby has to do a breast crawl. No, we're not saying that. If it does, great. If not, get some help. But main thing is don't separate. And the short answer to the long answer that I've given is wait until the cord stops to pulse. If possible, wait until the placenta comes out, and then that usually gives the mom some time to. I call it the minute of pause. There has to be a pause between birth and the next thing. Not one more thing that everybody is now on the phone saying, "Oh, congratulations." Well, where is the time for the mom to even understand that I have actually become a mom? What does this mean to me? I think these are things that, again, those circles of women have to talk about these things, is what I feel.
Yeah, yeah,
So last couple of questions. You have put into place programs in your place of work for helping hospitals becoming breastfeeding friendly.
yeah,
How has it worked? Because I'm sure there are care providers here who are also listening to this.
yeah,
How has it
yeah,
worked? Like a shorter version of it, because there are
yeah,
many steps to it, obviously.
yeah. So, actually, in the place, So, in the place where I am working currently, it's Mallaradi Medical College, and it was not my stuff, it was started by Dr. Pradip Reddy, and he was insistent. He's an army man, and he actually made his persistence was insane. I mean, it was something that he kept digging, and got to the end of the tunnel over years, over 2-3 years, and now the culture is set so that any newcomer, for them, that is the norm. So establishing skin to skin contact, and making sure that early initiation is done, making sure that someone actually sees breastfeeding for every diet before they're discharged, that that there are, and the beauty of it is the entire team is pro for it. No one actually, but getting systems into place is the thing which actually makes things work. And getting those systems into place takes work and a lot of time. And then changing people who are set in their ways is a challenge, but then you have to show your own professionalism, and you can't start off wars that actually backfires. So go slow, and give a small bid, give a small promise, fulfill it, and let them see the difference, and then ask for a bigger bid, and then fulfill that. Make sure that they are not at the they're not facing problems because of it. Usually, it comes out of all the resistance comes from a place of fear that if I don't allow if I allow lying down feeding, oh my God, suffocations might happen.
Yes.
So you should pitch in and make sure that mothers are educated on how to safely feed in lying down position. When you say let's not use formula, you should pitch in and ensure that every mother is actually able to give adequate feeding to the baby, and she's receiving timely help. So there are hospitals which are like very black and white, that they say no formula and not give the support that is needed for the mother. And ultimately what happens is, after the mother gets discharged, she falls back onto formula. So it's not going to work like that. And the gynecologists realize that, and they're going to, fight back, because they, according to them, they are fighting the best interest of the mother. So I think asking for small things and giving the support and showing them that it's actually causing, and thanking them, and then asking them what is their fear, asking them what is coming in the way. Sometimes it's just the OT temperature, it's that post-op temperature, or the recovery room's temperature is a central AC, and they are not able to control the temperature, and they are having to separate the baby because the baby might get cold. Then you can actually understand what their thought process, and you can solve for it. You can say skin to skin contact is enough, we'll make sure that temperature is being monitored. So once it's like how you would talk to a mother, the same principles. Don't see them as your opponent. Very likely they have the best interest in mind. It's just have small conversations, create rapport. It's a process that is best, that works better if it is a slow ongoing snowballing. If you want it in a single punch, it's going to go away very soon too. So having systems in place.
And to having everyone there keeping an eye. I always find that sometimes even when you're sensitizing the whole team, and part of what we do is also, like ICI is the International Childbirth Initiative, which is, now with FIGO and everybody coming in and endorsing it, and in fact they're a part of it, is to say that what are the small changes that can be made. So if there are 12 steps, can you take one step? And part of one step break it down
Yeah.
and see if what is the buy-in that you can get in from everyone, and like you said, thanking people. I think it's so undervalued. Everyone is doing their best on that particular day, trying to do it, but giving everyone that, like even the IMA who can come in and say, वो baby रो रहा है, कोई कुछ देखें, that comes
Yeah.
from everyone's opinion being said and being valued. It's not the housekeeper is there more often in the room than I am. So why not
Yeah.
use her to say, oh, the
Yeah.
baby's
So,
crying? Well, the nurses are in other places.
yeah.
Well, I can go in and help them to breastfeed, right?
Yeah. So we had trained our IMS too. And that's very helpful. And so that's what, when, change can only come when the other people think that it is their idea too.
Yes.
You can't force your idea on other people, especially those who have lived a very esteemed life with, and they have seen that it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see the full picture. When they ask mothers how things are, they'll say, yes, everything's fine. They don't see the other picture. They don't see the whole thing together. So they don't see why this has to be done.
Right.
And so having conversations on and off, and having discussions without agenda, just having educational sessions, just talking about the physiology of breastfeeding, and then asking them the question, how do we now we know that, in the first hour, oxytocin is in such a surge. And, unfortunately in our hospital, we are missing out on that surge because we have these things in place, and this has been our protocol. What do you think can be done to sort of make use of this oxytocin surge in the initial 1 hour when the baby is actually most alert? What we are noticing is once the baby is coming out, after this 1 hour of management with the pediatrician, we are seeing that this baby is sleepy. So how can we manage this? You ask them the question, they will themselves come with the answer. They themselves come. So putting the ownership and when you treat them as if they have the interests of mother and baby at heart too, and you're just giving them the knowledge, and you're not trying to boss them around and show off that, see, I am such a baby and mother friendly person, you are not. It's not going to change people. So it's just like how you would treat a mother. The same respect and ownership and agency has to be given to your colleagues also, whom you want to bring onto your side. I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we are almost gone on to the hour's time. Time has just gone. So before we end, 1 or 2 nuggets of advice that you would want to give moms to advocate for themselves and their breastfeeding journey wherever they are.
Yeah. Sorry, I actually wanted to ask you a couple of questions also, but I think that's another time we'll plan something for another.
I can do one question and then we can do the.
Yeah, I think the same question to you. I mean, because I still am grappling with the thing. I mean, I still am learning on how do we bring about change. So in the systems of hospital systems, what do you think has actually improved things?
Primarily, I think primarily that the 2 things that you yourself talked about, one is at a system level, slowly giving people XYZ responsibility and saying, this is yours, come back and report back, saying if it is not working, what other things can work, This goes to anything, any hospital system, there'll be always leakages of something somewhere, because it is a giant place working to serve different moms and different, maternity system, especially if we are talking about with different issues and babies with different needs, right? But beyond that, I think finding that place where there is the leakage is happening and saying, okay, if this is not working, what can be the next best? I think oftentimes putting the question back to them usually gets us a response back. Let's try it for 15 days. If it doesn't work, we have the next we can try the next thing, next best to it. But the larger picture, I still feel, is working in the antenatal period. I think that is the biggest gap that we can address. Because once the baby is born, once the baby is hungry, once that baby is crying, once that mom loses the confidence that, oh my goodness, I can't do this, and then the pressure starts, we are really, in Tamil there is a saying, that if you want to catch an elephant, you try to catch the elephant by the trunk, not wait until the elephant is running and try to catch the tail, right? It's exactly like that. Most of the time, we are trying to catch the tail of a runaway elephant, and then we are all landing up in this stress. And honestly, it's very stressful, even as a care provider. I can say that when things are absolutely not working, it's traumatic to the care provider also to sit in there and say it's ho jayega, ho jayega, ho jayega. But we know from our side we are tending to that mom for that minute. We have to understand that she's tending to that baby 24/7, 365 days. So unless and until we can bring that to that solution, we have someone right now who is admitted, who has had a rocky breastfeeding journey the first time around. The second time around was also similar. Many layers to the issue that she is facing. Last night I was there within so many births happening, and the baby was wailing. And when I just walked into the room, why is this baby wailing? Husband is holding the baby, really giving her support. She's sitting with the breast pump, and the thing is, like, because her baby had lost a bit of weight, had not passed urine. One of the things that was told is we should also try to stimulate the breast. But there was, as a new mom, she has so many things going on. That basic thing that first bring the baby to the breast, then we shall see about it. So just doing that, come, let's get the baby. Suddenly her face lights up. Okay, my baby is feeding. Now today in the morning, there's a whole different round of discussions about what she wants, and breastfeeding is somewhat triggering her. There is a past trauma, and she says, I don't want to use breast pump. So again, that layers, it comes little later. But I think that antenatal education, empowerment, getting them the knowledge, getting the family support, and having a system which has a continuity of care. Because when we separate the mom as, okay, ANC somebody sees, birth somebody sees, postpartum somebody sees, which I know is not avoidable in bigger hospitals, but there is nobody handing over. It is case number 1 in room number 3. It is not Sneha or
I think it
Vijay
still can
who
be
is a
done. I think it still can be done if you build that organizational culture. It's when everyone stands on the same page and for a reason, for a scientific reason, and they want to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's in the leader's hand. I couldn't do this in Nilofer, but here it happened because the head had it in him to do it. So when the head has it, it trickles down over time, and then everyone wants to do it.
Correct.
And the way he motivates people, or the way he appreciates when someone does their job, also makes people owners. So I think it is possible to have that continuity of care when everyone talks the same language and everyone is on the same page with regard, and there is documentation. We document, that's what BFHI asks for also. Ki, did you document that in antenatal period these checklist of things have been covered? Are you sure that the mother has known not just about the benefits of breastfeeding, but the harms of formula feeding? There's a checklist of things that she must be knowing, so that there's no gaps, And then I think that's what I mean, having a system in place, because I don't think India has the luxury of having individual practices only. Yeah, so I think systems have to be put in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so coming back to your question about moms, so again, empowering moms is not just going to help her, but because I truly believe that unless mothers start insisting on having the right practices in place, and unless mothers start asking for lactation counselors or skilled support when they are facing challenges. First of all, I think 95% of people need not fall into that bracket of landing into a problem if they have adequate antenatal education and they have seen other moms feed. If they are attending not just I think mom circle should not be just postpartum moms, but some amount of antenatal moms also. And if that is there, I think one, that to empower herself with knowledge and with a stable peace, calm mind. I know it's very difficult, but dilute. You can't delete negative thoughts and stress, but dilute it with positive affirmations, or things like, okay, I can do this. Remember you've gone through birth. So I think this is a very small thing compared to birth. So you can do it. So just yeah. And skin to skin contact, understanding watching your baby and understanding your baby's cues, and understanding the mentality that this person is a whole person
Yes.
with their own temperament, with their own language, and there is a connection, that a relationship. Breastfeeding is about the relationship. That is why so many problems come. It is not like kidney function. It just functions on its own. It's like, because it's two people coming together in a very repeated and a stressful, I mean, not stressful, but very dependent way. Uh, if you just respect that, I think a lot of things will fall into
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That was fantastic. It was just, I'm hoping that the audience has also got enough of their questions answered, as well as something out of it. Just enjoyed this conversation, Dr. Sneha. It was
Me
just
too, me too.
wonderful. And
Yeah.
we'll hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank